All right, let's talk about wind and wind damage. Again, we must start with collateral indicators. Oftentimes we see severe evidence when we get to the lost location. Here we're driving into a hurricane zone, so it looks like we're going to have a lot of damage, but we still need to validate there was severe wind at the final lost location. And when we get there, looking for things like downed trees, cut up trees, piles of debris, good indicator there's been a big event. Also, since we're talking about commercial roofs, likely we're in a commercial zone. Maybe there's commercial signs. They're a good indicator and can often be showing wind damage like this one. Of course, antennas, satellite dishes are good things to look at. They can tell the story of wind as these two photos. And of course, like we do with residential structures, look at the building itself. In the form, we could have missing, loose gutters, downspouts, maybe all sorts of metal or vinyl trim work and fascias and things like that are damaged. Window wraps, that sort of stuff. We use this one a lot in residential wind claims, but if there's any fences nearby that, have they been affected? Both wood fences, vinyl fences, they're going to get damaged by wind way before a commercial roof should get damaged, right? So this could be a good starting point as well. Just you don't always have fences like this in those commercial areas, but maybe I would look. And just like with hail collaterals, any of these collateral indicators of means we have wind does not necessarily mean we have damage to the roof surface. We still have to investigate that closely. All right, wind damage is a little bit more complicated than hail damage sometimes, and now we're going to focus specifically on built-up and mod-bit roofs with confirmed wind damage. And when architects and engineers design buildings, specifically those roofs, to withstand wind damage, it takes more thought than just wind speed. They have to consider things like the overall roof type, the wall design. Are there any overhangs? What topographic issues do we have in this area that might apply to this roof surface? Even the roof surface roughness itself can play into wind and wind pressure. So way more complicated than you might have thought. Oftentimes we see wind damage chalked up to improper installation, like this mod bit membrane that was not properly installed or adhered and came loose during the windstorm. And my first guess would be is they used cold adhesive when it wasn't the right temperature. That definitely does happen. Windblown debris also causes damages. Here we see an unsecured vent hood that got ripped loose, subsequently damaging the roof surface along with it. Overall, though, the vast majority of failures begin at the perimeter of the roof as seen here. Then we sort of see a cascading failure that causes the membrane to be blown free. And here's an example of a failure at the edge metal. Wasn't adequately secured, and this was a relatively moderate windstorm. Came through, but once that edge metal came loose, remember how things are all overlapped? It then sort of ripped up, about 25 or 30 feet of this roof on this large warehouse.